Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to, I believe, this is our fifth show, Tom?
It's getting up close to that
Something like
number,
that?
five, six, somewhere around there.
Well, somewhere around five, show of the Office 365 Pulse. You're once again joined with the devilishly handsome myself and Tom. Jen is actually around. She's about 15 feet from me, but she's busy doing important administrative stuff for our company. So Tom and I are going to be holding down the fort today. We actually have a moderately quick week this week, Tom. And when we're going through and looking at the updates, not a ton of updates to go through, and some of them are pretty self-explanatory. We were also kind of giggling about it before we got on the show. Some of the changes we have some tools that show us the updates to the roadmap. We're literally just name changes, like no features or anything.
Yeah.
But the result of that would be hopefully a pretty quick show. We're going to kind of follow the format that we've done the last couple times and kind of talk about canceled, then in development, then going to launched and rolling out. But shockingly, there's nothing canceled this week. So
Well, that's
that
checked
section
off
of the
now.
show is done.
But we
So we'll go
have
ahead
to
and
keep
talk
that
about some of the
presence
new
out
cool
there.
stuff that was added that kind of matters to us. I know, Tom, you had some stuff that you were really excited about. You want to kind of give us an overview?
Sure. Looking at the list of changes, substantial changes from this week, in development, the first one that's on the list is one that is video interactivity with quizzes, polling, and more in and it's basically the description is add quizzes, polls, and more to your stream videos with a new integration with Microsoft Forms. That's kind of intriguing. There wasn't a lot of information on how that's going to work, but I kind of like the fact that they're now tying together forms and streams to enable you to have higher quality videos and have some level of interactivity in your videos. So I'm assuming when you're doing the presentation, you're recording, you're going to be able to have these things out there. Maybe you can embed them into the video itself in some way, shape, or form. Not quite sure how they would do that because stream is usually just upload and off you go. But I'm interested to see how that works out because I think a lot of people are going to like that if they can inject it into their presentations and then have that show up as part of stream. So
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
think
cool.
this follows a general trend. We've talked about it several times. Of they seem to be developing their applications to work more cohesively together as a unit, which I think we'll all agree is a good thing, right?
Yeah, good building blocks there. And to kind of keep within the whole stream things, the second one that I had on the list is they want to be able to, or they're announcing that they're going to be able to, manage face detection in Microsoft Streams. So it used to be that you only got this in E5, I believe, and that is if you had a stream video and you uploaded it, part of the processing would be determining, oh, who are the different faces we have out there, who do they belong to, and when are they talking. So it makes it really nice in the fact that you can go out there and go, oh, there's Sally. I want to jump right to the point where Sally was interviewed. And you can do that. I'm not sure why you'd want to turn that off, but apparently this has been a
The
request
government can't
because
find me, Tom.
there you go.
Important,
Yeah,
I need to hide.
they can find you, trust me. So they're going to add an administration control to turn off the face detection feature on a tenant level. So if for some reason your company or your tenant doesn't want to have that facial recognition, you can turn it off at the tenant level. You're not going to be able to do it on a video by video basis, but that's going to be out there too. So again, I kind of like it, but apparently some people don't and want to have it turned off. So I'm pro-choice. Why not? And the last one that we had in development that I'll talk about is the doing a new calendar app, which is replacing the meetings app in Teams. Now, I will be the first to admit I read that and said, there's a meeting apps in Teams? And I'm not quite sure what it was, and this week's been rather crazy, so I didn't have a lot of time to dig into that and figure out what am I missing and what am I going to be getting with the new calendar app instead. I'll just tell you it's going to be out there. They told us so, and it says they're going to begin rolling out this feature in early March of 2019. So starting sometime tomorrow, this could start appearing in your tenant. So if you're interested in that, you may want to do a little digging around to see what that's going to entail.
Yeah, I'm hopeful about that update. I'm someone who's been using Teams for forever, and honestly, one of the things I always felt like was lacking, but was never really that vocal about, because I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Right now, if there's just a tab on the left that says meetings, and it basically
Okay.
shows you your day for the day and any meetings in
Oh,
your
oh,
calendar.
oh.
I'm hoping the calendar app is going to be a step forward in intelligence and more than just here's a snapshot of the meetings you have going on today, something that's more interactive that you can
Okay.
move around and function in a more traditional sense that you would a calendar. Maybe add external calendars or group calendars to it, stuff like that. That's what I'm hoping.
Wow, if the light switch in my room was any closer, I'd like turn it on and off because the light switch just turned on for me. Thank you, Adam. I was not thinking that. I was thinking like something up in tabs or
Nope, just a
connectors or
little thing on the
something.
side.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that could be really cool. People
Yeah,
check into
exactly. Like,
that one.
there's nothing wrong. It was nice that it showed you your meetings, but I'm hoping this
Yeah.
is like a step forward in intelligence in the sense of interacting with a calendar in the same way you can with Outlook or maybe even OA, something like that. Where right now it's just kind of a here's your meetings. I'm hoping it's more of a intelligence you can get more value out of it type of a deal.
Yeah, it sounds like they're moving closer to the you can live in teams all day long
Yeah.
mindset and philosophy, where right now you still have to go back for calendar entries and stuff like that. So I get that. With that, why don't we go over to the ones you're going to start talking about, which was Outlook for iOS and a few of the other ones.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So the first one, I think it's kind of cool. So my world, we've talked about this a little bit. My world comes from email and email migrations. That's what I did for the longest time before I really got deep into Office 365. For those of you who use them, categories in email could be the best thing since sliced bread, or you could not care about them at all. Typically, when I was going and I was working with companies that were migrating, you'd have an organization of 500 people. 498 of them didn't care about categories at all, but those two people, like that was their lifeline. Like you took that away, and the end was near, you know. And so
Your end was near.
yeah, exactly, right? So what they're really doing, I think, is cool for those two of the 500 people. If you really do like categories, they're actually going to be coming out with colored categories for Outlook for the iOS. So if you're going through and you're using the Outlook app on your phone in the iOS, they've been doing more and more updates over the last couple of years to make it closer to what the experience would be like if you actually had Outlook. One of the concepts that you don't hear about talked about as much, but I still really love, is the idea of Microsoft talks about mobile first, which is they develop mobile applications so that way their counterparts on the desktop look and feel as close as they can. So for the people that really like and use categories for and I say this in the most loving way possible because my job is much easier with them. For the organization freaks out there that really want everything organized and tied off with a bow, you're now going to get colored categories in iOS, which for the right person I think could be a really cool deal.
Makes sense. I like it.
Outside of that, there's a couple that I was really excited about when I saw them that are actually kind of, ignite or make happy the security side of me. There's two things that they moved to in development that were kind of on the bottom of new things that have been added to the roadmap that I think have the potential to be really cool. So I want to make sure I get these names specifically right for us. So one of them is called Intelligence Classification for Advanced Data Governance. Mouthful of words there. What it actually means when you go through and you dig into it, this is basically a way that they're going to start bringing the power forth of artificial intelligence and machine learning specifically to where you can go through and start to classify certain things following trends. And there's, in the same way when you first kind of saw DLP coming out, there's some stuff you can allow it to do on its own or you can teach it. You can kind of say, hey, there's certain types of documents that we deal with, certain types of information that are important that we want to classify need to not go out, that we want to make sure is protected. And
Right.
up until now, you had to have someone manually go in and apply a label to it. You had to have keywords that you went through and looked in DLP. What this is going to do is add this machine learning automated way to go in and start classifying stuff that could be really important to your company and do it in an automatic, again, automated way on the back end. Really cool way that you're looking through the technology. Because this is in development with anything this way, and Tom, you probably feel this is probably going to be like something like an E5 feature that's probably going to be, or Azure AD Premium 2 or something, one of the more advanced features. I doubt this is going to be coming out to the Business Essentials customers out there with us. But really cool that you're looking at some of the machine learning and some of the artificial intelligence implications of what they can start to do with data classification and governance as a whole.
I completely agree. I know we're still kind of delving into that area. Delve, not meaning delve. Microsoft, delve. I'm doing puns all over the place today. But yeah, that's something that we could definitely see ourselves potentially looking at in the future. So good stuff.
Yeah, so there was one more that was also just along the lines of the security one. And again, this was one that I read and I was kind of like, that's some cool sounding words. What does that mean? And like went out and tried to Google this and try to find stuff and didn't really find a lot. But it's what they say is data investigation solutions. And what data investigation solutions, which I don't know if we're going to call it like DIS or like DIS. I don't know if they're going to run with that, but what it basically is, whenever I kind of dug into it, it's kind of like a e-discovery super powered across your tenant. So say there's something that comes out information-wise into your tenant that you need to get control of, whether it's malicious, say like someone gets compromised and puts a whole bunch of nasty junk out there inside of your tenant, or say maybe, and I've had this before, say maybe some employee quits in a blaze of glory and says some really horrible things and goes through and puts documents up or emails out and stuff. Right now, how you handle that process is you have to go in and create e-discovery searches through the litigation features inside of the Security and Compliance Center. You have to let it crawl through all your sites and find out information. You then have to go in through PowerShell and delete that stuff on the back end for the search. And then once you do that, you have to redo the search because, from the time that you ran your first search to the time that it completed going through all of your sites to the time that you went through and deleted it, that could have propagated more again. And it works, but it's a somewhat convoluted process. Right. Well, DIS, this thing that they're developing, is basically going to be a way for you as an IT admin to go and search for specific content throughout your organization and take remediation actions on it. So basically, if there's something you don't want in there, rather than having to go through this labor-intensive process of doing e-discovery searches and holds and deletions and stuff, it's going to be a solution or a tool designed with that specifically in mind to go through. Because really, right now, you're using tools that are really designed for like legal purposes to discover, all the content about thing X to do routine IT admin maintenance stuff, and this tool appears to be a solution to that, where it's going to be doing some of the similar actions, but in a way that's purposely built as IT administrators and people that are running the IT of their company to get rid of unwanted or malicious or negative content that's out there in a meaningful way. So again, data person to me was really happy to see that.
Yeah, and I think that's nice that they're going beyond the, hey, we can help you find all these things that are in your system that could be PHI, could be this, could be that, could apply to. We'll tag it, we'll freeze it, we'll lock it, we'll do whatever. But there's not a lot of, how do you help me go out there and remediate getting rid of malicious content? It sounds like this is going down that path, which I think is really good, because it's one thing to say, I found it. It's another thing to say, what do I do with it now that I have it? So it's a good thing.
So now going from there, some of the more, I guess, exciting part of our show that we're going to talk about, and we touched on this briefly, some of the stuff was in development with a very short time frame, but now we wanted to kind of talk about in the tradition of what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, the stuff that's gone from in development to either rolling out or launched. If you see rolling out, typically you're seeing that and going out to first release tenants, going out to just a couple of people. It's starting to be in the preview phase that people are getting their fingers on it, can kind of see it, and then obviously going to launched is when you're going full live. It should be going out to everyone, should be matriculating out. But so that's some of the more meaningful updates that we see in the roadmap, because that means stuff that you're going to be getting your fingers on really quickly. So moving on to there, Tom, you want to go ahead and kick us off with some of the stuff that you saw moving to rolling out or launch that you're excited about?
So in the launched area, one of the things that has moved into that classification now is for your Outlook calendar, it will actually be allowing you to block forwarding meeting invites, which I think is really cool, because you can have a nice, tight, controlled meeting, and all it takes is for one person to go, hey, I'm going to forward that to this distribution
list. Oh, no,
list.
they invited
and all
Dave.
of a sudden you have 1,000 people who are now attending this meeting who have nothing to do with it, but they have opinions, and they'll tell them to you. Interesting that it does mention that this option will only be available to users in Office 365. So I'm guessing, it says in the first release, the option to prevent forwarding will only be available when creating or editing meetings in Outlook on the web, but the option will become available shortly for Outlook for Windows shortly thereafter. So again, Outlook client, yeah, it's going to be trailing behind the thing, and it goes back to what you were talking about, where the whole develop for cloud first, mobile first is going to take precedence here. But still, the fact that that exists, if people are willing to say, hey, I really need this type of security, and I'm going to go out to Outlook Online to be able to use it, I think that's great.
Yeah, it's one of those things, too. We've talked about this in several of the shows past. We guarantee you this feature will be in Outlook before you would think it. Like, soon. They develop for the web first because it's much easier for them to modify HTTP code inside of the web than it is for them to do a whole release out to applications on people's computer. But they're doing it there, making sure everything's good, and very shortly that will be out in Outlook clients too. So if this is a feature you think you're interested in, I'd encourage you to go and get your hands on it and try it, because it's going to be out there to you and your organization, your users, sooner than you think it would.
Definitely. The other thing that's in a launch state that I was going to talk about is that Microsoft Teams, originally when Teams came out, it had a very small, I think, what was it, 1,000 people? That you couldn't have more than 1,000 people in a team.
I think it started at 250, then it went up to 1,000.
Yeah. It worked its way up, and it was like, 2,500. And I'm thinking, I don't ever want to be part of a Microsoft Teams workspace at 2,500. Well, I can definitely tell you that with this upcoming change, I don't want to be part of a Microsoft Teams that now allows up to 5,000 members, because I'm thinking the admin on that is going to be a nightmarish disaster. But they have doubled the limit, so you can have up to 5,000 people in a Teams workspace now. And they said the distribution list import has been increased to 3,500 users, so you can easily populate the team. So it's not like you're going to sit there and start typing in 5,000 names to make everything work. It sounds like it's easier to import now. Again, I'm sure there are business situations where 5,000 people would work. I know some people were looking at it as possibly being the Microsoft Teams version of Yammer, potentially. Just having used Teams for a while now, maybe my mind hasn't warped correctly, but I'm just thinking 5,000 people in a Teams, especially when it came to conversations and chats, just is kind of like, I almost shiver a little bit when I hear that, because I'm thinking I don't want to be the person trying to manage that.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit. I have had this request before. I've had a couple really large customers that I worked with to roll out Teams, and it seems like the request all of them had was they want an all-staff or all-employees team. And the correct response is, no, you don't. Like, that's...
Exactly.
There's better ways for you to do this. You can have your SharePoint as a place to then go and get information. You can have a distribution list if you need to get out an emergency communication or something. The short answer is, no, you don't want a team. It was easier when they couldn't that way. But at the same time, I can somewhat understand Microsoft increasing the limit, because I'm sure you have people out there that just are determined, no, they do want an all-staff team, or no, they have a use case that this makes sense for, and they're gonna keep stuff in. Or the very, very large organizations out there. I could see people like General Motors and stuff that have tens of thousands of employees. Well, their marketing department might be more than 5,000 people or something, you know? And so if they have something they genuinely want to put everything together, and again, I think we would sit here and probably say, yeah, we'll put that in SharePoint, but that somewhat goes against the idea of what you're talking about with Teams trying to become a centralized hub for everyone. So our advice would be you probably don't want a team that big, because, as you said, from an administration standpoint, like, that gives us headaches just thinking about it. But I can kind of see where Microsoft's coming from with this update. I'm sure they get this request, especially from some of their larger customers. So it's one of those things that, well, we're telling you it's a bad idea, but, you know, here you go, good luck.
Yeah, I could see it a little bit more, too, if you were able to say, I have owners, I have members, and then I have the traditional SharePoint visitors. If I had 5,000 read-only people, that would be a great company communication mechanism. No problem. It's just the fact that having 5,000 people who can drop a, hey everybody, there's cake in the break room. Okay, which break room are we talking about? Because I'm sure they're not all close enough to the break room for 5,000 people. Those kind of things are what kind of make me wonder how useful that would be, or how easy it would be to administer. But you know, it's there, you can use it, great, glad to hear it.
Yeah, and so we really had two other things from my knowledge that kind of hit home for my customers and for Jen's customers. They're in a combination of launch slash rolling out, but we saw some pretty cool changes coming to the GCC High or DoD spaces. So for those of you that are in that space, you already know where this is going. But if not, Microsoft has government clouds, and there's some people that are like government extreme, and that's what you see when you hear GCC High or DoD. They have to meet an even higher level of scrupulousness and compliance. And so Microsoft has some clouds that are baked into that. Only U.S. citizens can go in and work on it, stuff like that. But when you go through and you look at it, the traditional thing there is stuff lags way behind there because it has to meet such a higher level of scrutiny to go through and be released. So it's one of those things, especially for me, coming from the private industry and transitioning to a job that has me be so like everything seems like a decade ago and so far behind. So, one excited to see. It does look like there's been some movement in the timeline there. So specifically speaking, actually moved to rolling out in the frames of what we were talking about. Microsoft Teams availability for the DoD space or GCC High place is going to rolling out. That means the first customers that are in first release and stuff should start to be seeing that. This one is huge for me. I can remember interviewing for the company that I'm at right now and going through and looking at the Microsoft documentation for the government cloud, and it's like, is it released? Yes, and have those like 6 asterisks next to it. I want to look at the 6 asterisks. It's like coming soon, and you're just like, wait a second, that's not really released. So to see them actually moving some here, I think you've heard us talk at length about how much we like Teams, so I'm excited to see some movement there and go in that direction. So that should be good. And then the other one that kind of goes hand in hand in that, also on the GCC High space, Project Online has actually gone from in development to launch. So one of them is rolling out, which means, again, first release is probably where you're seeing it. And the other one is actually launch, which means all GCC High / DoD customers should actually now be getting Project Online desktop clients too. So again, I'm sure most of you guys are sitting here listening to this that aren't from the government space. Like, I had the Project Online desktop app 2 years ago, and it's like, yeah, you did, but it's just now coming out to them. So again, this makes me happy on the inside for my customer base that are going there, because again, I always like to see some of the cool features and tools that Microsoft has worked on passing that scrutiny level where it gets to the point that they can actually start rolling this out to some of their most secure features. So really, really excited to see that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that is the more extreme version of the fact that we're on the semi-annual release for the Office products, which I'm like, oh, look at all the cool stuff that I'm not going to get to see for another 5 more months. This really sucks. You're even in a worse case than that because you may not see it for the next year and a half.
Yeah, coming soon, TM.
Coming soon to a theater near you. The last thing that I had on my list that was flagged as rolling out, and we've mentioned this in prior ones, and that is on the SharePoint page, the little feedback button at the bottom is going to disappear. It's going to be poof. You don't have to run any PowerShell script to make it disappear. That's really great.
Confusion for your users just going away.
Confusion like for the users. Well, we'll replace it with other confusion, I'm sure. But that confusion is going away. And that starts on February 18th. So it's been underway now for, 2 weeks? I found it interesting. I was talking to one of my customers who had suggested and asked for us to turn that off back when it was just can only be done in PowerShell, and we hadn't done it. And I told her, it's like, oh, it's going to be done now automatically, so no big deal. We'll just let that cover it. And like every 3 or 4 days, she's like, it's still there. It's rolling out, but it's still there.
It's coming, I promise.
And rolling out can be an extended period of time. I can't tell you when, except it's going to happen. So that's coming out. They also had one other thing in here as part of the change for this one. It says, plus removal of circular pictures of members. We're updating the design of the site header for SharePoint sites connected to Office 365 groups to remove the circular pictures of the first 3 members of the group. Users who want to see the members of the group can continue to click the members link to see the full list. So that's like up in that upper right corner, it'll say who's owners of this list or whatever, and you'll see like 3 pictures.
Yeah, only the first 3 people were cool enough to get pictures. Everyone else was just their name.
Yeah, you're a silhouette, or you just don't even exist and merit a silhouette at any point in time. So that's going to be changing too. Again, something really small. It's probably going to be one of those things where it hits your site and it's going to be out there for like 3 or 4 weeks before somebody goes, hey, what happened to the circles? And you're going to say, what circles? You heard it here. The circles are going away.
Someone really vain like me and Tom are going to be like, I can't see my beautiful face anymore. Like, this is a travesty.
I'm sorry, Adam, but that is not what's going to go through my mind. It's
a
like,
travesty,
yay, nobody will know who I'm at. Yeah, it's funny because I've been working remote for so long, even when I lived in Portland and the office I work or I'm attached to is in Portland. And then when I moved downtown into an apartment that was half a block away, my boss had said, oh, we're going to see you in the office more. It's like, no, you're not. And so when I talk to my customers, they're like, so can you come in and meet? And it's like, nope. I'm basically like Charlie of Charlie's Angels. I'm the voice on the phone. You will never see me in person. You don't want to know what I look like. You don't care what I look like. I am just the voice on the phone.
I feel like putting yourself out there on a podcast is kind of counterintuitive to that notion, though, Tom.
It is kind of amusing, though, because Sandra, my now coworker, no longer my boss, she had said, so where's the link for the YouTube channel? It has this, so I got it for her. And, of course, it has the little, thumbnails. She looks at it and she goes, those are really funny-looking thumbnails of you and Adam. And just like, thanks, Sandra. That makes me feel so much more confident in how I look on these things.
We're the beautiful face of IT, Tom. Just embrace it.
Yeah, let's move on to wrapping this up and go on to next week.
Yeah, so honestly, guys, like we said, kind of a short week. Some pretty cool updates coming through. Like I said, some cool stuff from the data side that I think they kind of got geeked out about. And happy to see them not bulk canceling stuff that we didn't really know what it meant anymore. So I think for the most part, though, pretty good week. As always, this should be going up on Thursday, which will be end of March by the time this goes up. We're still way back when in February, but thank you for joining us this week, guys. We will be back again next week. Hopefully, all three of us strong going at it. So, yeah,
it would be nice. It would be nice to have the attractive facial addition of Jen back in the group because I think that will add a lot to this duo that we got going on here.
a little less overwhelming facial hair, attractive features. It'll be a good change.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Though if she does come in with a false beard, I'm going to laugh my butt off.
That'll be the good video icon for
There you go. That'll be the icon for every other meeting that we have.
That's the new face.
That is the new face of Office Pulse 365.
The beard will be like the U of the Pulse, so it'll be fun.
I love it.
But seriously, guys, thank you for joining us. We definitely have enjoyed doing this. Any questions, any comments, anything like that, just let us know. And if not, we'll see you guys next week with some new updates coming out for 365.
See y'all later, people.